Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road.
Hi everybody, it's Dave's Rental Coach, and I am back again for another week to teach you guys how to make your life better and how to make your relationships work. This week I plan to continue to talk about the book by David Schnarch, The Passionate Marriage. But in reading ahead, I got distracted and I actually had a dream. So I thought I'd tell you about my dream, which dovetails quite nicely with chapter 11 of the book. Chapter 11 is the two-choice dilemma and normal marital sadism. I woke up one morning about 3 days ago and I was dreaming. I had a dream. I remembered it very clearly. First of all, I was in ancient Greece and there was a man wearing Greek armor, and he was in a temple, and he walked up to this big mass of knotted cords and took out a sword and chopped it in two. And then the scene shifted, and everything dissolved, and I was suddenly on a starship. And we were being attacked from all sides by, Klingons, Romulans. We were being shot at. And the ship blew up. And I woke up. And what the hell am I thinking here? And it just suddenly hit me. These are two examples from mythology, from history, which show and demonstrate chapter 11 of David Schnarch's book, the double bind and normal marital sadism. Okay? Because these are, I recognized immediately, and perhaps you do as well, these are two stories. One is from ancient Greece, that took place in the city of Gordia. Gordia was a major city in ancient Greece, and there was an oracle in this city who had previously prophesied that there was a ball of rope and string tied and knotted together. Nobody knows how big it was, but one can imagine it was quite large. And the prophecy was that whoever is able to untangle this knot of cords shall rule the world. So the story goes, one day Alexander the Great before he started his conquests, he went into the temple and he paid homage to Zeus, and then he went and saw the Gordian knot, and he said, it says, whoever can unravel these cords shall rule the world. So Alexander the Great drew out his sword, didn't say a word, very stoic Alexander. He drew out his sword and he chopped the sword into the knot and cut it in twain. Cut it right in two. Okay? So, how did Alexander the Great deal with a double bind? An impossible scenario, a no-win scenario. Well, he changed the rules. He cheated. So let's do the other example, the Kobayashi Maru. The Kobayashi Maru is a ship, and it's an imaginary ship. This is from Star Trek. But it's not exactly an esoteric Star Trek thing. This was the opening scene, for example, in Star Trek III, The Wrath of Khan. This has been in Star Trek II, the more recent Star Trek movies. There was an episode of the original series called The Kobayashi Maru. There was a book called The Kobayashi Maru. So this is well known among Star Trek fans. And the Kobayashi Maru, again, was a ship, a fictitious ship, that had radioed for help. And the mission, training simulation mission, all done by computers on the bridge of the starship, the mission was to rescue the Kobayashi Maru. Well, the program was set up so you couldn't rescue the Kobayashi Maru. You were going to be destroyed. They would just send wave after wave after wave of ships at you until your ship was destroyed. So it's a no-win scenario. You either had your ship destroyed or you failed the mission. And how do you suppose James Tiberius Kirk dealt with the Kobayashi Maru? Well, he failed at first. And then when he realized the game, he cheated. That's right. He cheated. He tapped into the computers from the next room, and he reprogrammed them so that he could win the no-win scenario. So we have now two examples from history and from fiction, or fictional history, if you prefer, of how to deal with the double bind, how to deal with the no-win scenario. So we know the solution. Let's do a better job of identifying the problem. Okay, because the problem is that this is a ubiquitous behavior of women. Women love to put men in double binds because it's win-win for them. So let's go through the three more common double binds that we see. And there's two different types of double binds. One is an impossible situation. It takes the form of if A, then B, when A is impossible to accomplish. So a woman might say, I will only love you and submit to you if you can leap into orbit using your own legs, using your own leg power. If you can do that, then I'll love you. Well, obviously, that's an impossible condition. It can't be accomplished in any way. So it's a form of double bind. It's a no-win scenario. You can't jump into orbit by yourself, therefore she's not going to love you. Okay, classic double bind. This is very similar to the Christian women's double bind that they love to put men under. The Bible says in a number of places, wives, submit to your husbands. And then it says in a number of other places, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Well, submitting to your husband is not an impossible standard. You can just shut up and do it. But loving with the unfailing, perfect, eternal, God-like God love of Christ is impossible. So when a woman says, I'll submit to you if you love me like Christ loved the church, she might as well be saying, I'll submit to you if you can leap into orbit using your legs alone. Classic double bind that Christian women love to use. What are some other examples of double binds that women like to use? This is one that I see quite a bit, okay? It's the sex double bind. The woman says, I don't like it when you touch me. Because all you want to do is have sex. But the problem is, of course, you can't get her turned on to have sex unless you touch her. So it's a double bind. You can't touch her, therefore she won't have sex with you. And it's one I see all the time. Women love to use this against men because it's so effective. Men don't know how to deal with double binds. They simply clam up and let the woman have whatever she wants. Another double bind that we see all the time, women love this, almost all women will do this. Okay, they'll say one of two things, and this is a true double bind, okay? There's two different choices that you can make, both of them bad. Because that's what a double bind is. It's when you're given two choices and you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. There's no way through it. So the choice is, I want you to be home more. You're home working all the time. So she whines and she bitches and she complains that her husband isn't home. Well, first of all, that makes the husband less likely to want to be home. And second of all, when he does listen to her and work a few hours and stay home, then it immediately shifts to, well, you're not making enough money. And I don't know if we can make it. We're going to go bankrupt. So you see the double bind. If you work, you make money, and she claims she'll be happy with that, but she's not, because then she's going to complain about you being gone all the time. And if you don't work as many hours and you're home a lot, she'll complain about you not making enough money. Apparently not getting the idea that the number of hours you spend away from the house is pretty much proportional to the amount of money you're going to make. The point is not to complain about money or to complain about work hours and time spent at home. The point is just to complain. And she's going to bitch one way or another. So you need to have your own mental point of origin with these. You need to understand that when a woman puts you in a double bind, you do not have to play by her games. And in fact, when a woman uses the double bind, and all of them do, it's a form of global thermonuclear war.
Strange game. The only winning move is not to play.
It is. And trust me, it is a strange game, Professor. The only winning move is not to play. That's the war game. That's the changing of the rules that is required. So this is my advice for men facing the double bind. First of all, you need to be aware. You need to wake up. You need to take the red pill and become aware that male and female behavior and motivations are different. Secondly, you need to stop tolerating it. When a woman uses a double bind, she is engaging in gaslighting. It is a form of emotional torture that women use. That's what's going on. You need to recognize that this is what she is doing. She may not recognize it, she may recognize it, because some of them like to play games with this and they know exactly what they're doing. But others don't. I don't care about them. I care about you. And are you going to recognize the double bind? That's the first step. Recognize that this is emotional torture and it's unproductive and it's intolerable and it's not going to be allowed to happen. Secondly, stay calm. Control your flooding. When you are confronting a double bind, it's not going to do you any good to lose your shit and start, yelling and screaming. You have to maintain your cool during all of this. Third, and it arises from point number one, recognize that this is emotional torture, and this is a tactic used by terrorists. Then, once you've calmed yourself, you can calmly come to the conclusion in your own mind that I don't negotiate with terrorists. Terrorists need to be destroyed. They need to be beaten, not negotiated with. And that's the strategy I'm suggesting you use with your woman. Now, I know how I use the term beaten. No, I'm not saying beat your woman. I'm saying take these double binds and crush them with extreme prejudice. She should be reeling so hard from your counterattack that she never thinks about pulling this shit again. Remember, this is torture, and you have every right to defend yourself, guys. So don't negotiate with torturers or terrorists. Do what you believe is best. Don't even be influenced by them if they're going to be using this tactic. You must blow through it, you must chop it in half like the Gordian knot, or you must cheat like Captain James Tiberius Kirk. Those are the ways out of the double bind. So let's review the ways to get out of them. Well, one double bind was the Gordian knot. Alexander got out of that by drawing his sword and chopping it in two. Note what he did not do. He didn't negotiate. He didn't whine. He didn't complain. He didn't whine that, oh, it's impossible, nobody can do this, like so many others had done before him. He didn't think about it. He took action. He drew his sword and he chopped it in two with one mighty stroke. And that's what you need to do with the double bind. You need to draw your weapon and split it right in half. Or, if that doesn't work, you can follow Jim Kirk's advice, an example, and cheat. And when I mean cheat, and when I say cheat, I'm not talking about, going out and having sex with other women, although maybe that has a role later in the day. When I say cheat, I mean that you are entitled to use whatever means are necessary to beat this, any double bind that a woman throws at you. You are entitled to lie. You are entitled to blackmail. You are entitled to use brute force. You are entitled to change the rules of the game and refuse to play by her abusive rules. Okay? So how does that look in the real world? Well, in the real world it looks like don't argue and don't complain. You're not going to argue with a woman. It's not going to do any good. She has the drop on you. She has the advantage. There's no point in arguing. So don't argue. But do take action immediately in response to the double bind. I suggest that when you are confronted with a double bind, after you have calmed yourself sufficiently, that you confront it directly. You don't deer, no defend, explain, evade, rationalize. To confront it directly. Say, sweetheart, if I can't touch you, then you don't become sexually excited. So me not touching you means you're not going to get sexually excited. And I'm not going to play that game with you. So let's try a different game. It's one way to approach it. When you're faced with the same double bind with work, confront it directly. Use as few words as possible. But this is not the time to shut the fuck up. This is the time to speak, but speak like a man. Speak with as few words as possible. State your point. Explain why this is gaslighting and this is not fair and you're not going to play this game. And then shut up. You said your piece. You've said how it's going to be. Now that's how it's going to be. There's no more discussion. There's no more arguing. Now what do you do if she wants to continue arguing, and she probably will? You remove all reinforcers from that behavior. If she wants to follow you around and continue arguing, then leave. Leave the house, go to the gym, go work out, go for a swim, go to the sauna, go to the mall and get 5 girls' phone numbers. Get out of the house because you, my friend, are being abused. And I don't want you to act like an abuse victim, but I want you to recognize it. And I want you to stop it. Because it's not going to get you what you want, and it's not going to get your wife what she wants. It's going to get you a divorce, is what it's going to get you. So attack those double binds, attack them with extreme prejudice, take no prisoners, and beat them into dust. And you do that by taking action and taking no prisoners and not hesitating. Hey, I am not going to be faced with the choice of working 80 hours a week and having you bitch about me not home or not having any money. Okay? You got to pick one. I can't do both. Okay? Then shut up. And she can go, let her do that for a couple of minutes. That's fine. Okay, we're done. And then, if she continues, leave. You've stated your position. There's no more argument. There's no more argument. This is the reality that you've laid out to her. And if she wants to continue bitching and moaning and ignoring reality, that's on her. You can't help her at that point. Just get out of the line of fire and do what you believe is best. If you want to stay and work more hours when she's acting like this, then do it. If you want to be home and try to have an emotional connection with your wife, then do that. But don't do it based on her whining and bitching. Do it based on what you want to do. Then, do it. Take action. Move decisively and brutally to your desired outcome. Know that she will continue to create drama, and you need to continue to ignore that. You've called it out once. You're not going to keep calling it out, but if she continues, you're going to reward her by ignoring it. You're going to remove all of the reinforcers that you have. Because remember, the reinforcers in this scenario, in the double bind, are that she has power over you and she can hurt you. She's got you backed up against the wall and she feels powerful and strong. You don't have to stay backed up into the wall. And you don't have to let her bully you and push you around. I suggest you stop and you man up and you stand up to her once, and if she wants to continue being unreasonable, you leave. That's the red pill solution, and that's what I'm suggesting that you folks do. Remember, when you do this, you reset every day. That is to say, you say every morning, good morning, sweetheart, and you try to make a connection, but recognizing and really basically forgetting what has happened the previous day. She won't forget, and if she brings it up, then okay. You might even let her in on the joke. You can roll your eyes, oh, I tried, and then leave. Let her think about your 2 words that you gave her that morning. I tried. Something to think about. It's very effective. Now my answer is very similar to David Schnark's answer, and he says that you should work on your differentiation and become a separate whole individual. In other words, work on your frame. become a strong framed individual who is not rattled by double bind tests. Alexander the Great was not rattled. He plowed through it. James Tiberius Kirk was not rattled. He cheated. And that's what you need to do if that's what it takes to win this battle. But according to Schnark, when you are your own man and she's her own woman, and you're differentiated, then there's no place for double binds because you're not overlapping, you're not connected like that Venn diagram. You are separate entities, and when you're separate entities, then these double binds, he claims, will disappear. I doubt it, but I do think they would decrease. It seems logical. They would decrease if you increase your frame. If nothing else, you no longer care about them. So it works out just fine. Whether you care about them or don't care about them, they no longer matter. Another example of the double bind women use all the time. I don't want to have sex right now. Well, it's kind of a single bind because the man has no choice. Or does he? Yeah, there is. There's a red pill answer to that. I don't want to have sex tonight for the 50th night in a row. The answer is when a woman says, we're not having sex tonight, or I'm not going to have sex tonight. Better yet, we're not going to have sex tonight. The answer is, no, sweetheart, you're not going to have sex tonight. Your body, your choice. My body, my choice. Goodbye. And then you leave. Let the hamster spin and see how she likes that. If you leave and you do alpha stuff, guess what? That makes you more alpha. You can leave to go lift weights, you can leave to go to the gym, you can leave to go meet the boys for a cigar, you can leave to go to the mall and get some numbers. All these things are alpha. Leave and go do something alpha. And when you get back, she may or may not be ready to talk. It really doesn't matter to you. But the thing is, she's going to want to talk about closeness and emotional connection. But she's not going to be pushing her double bind little power play anymore. You have taken your sword and cut through that knot. You cheated and you've won that battle. You haven't won the war, but you've at least won that battle. So tell her, you're right. You're not having sex tonight, but I am. When you do that, watch the hamster spin and watch your double binds disappear to dust. So that's the strategy for handling double binds. Recognize what it is, that it's emotional torture. Calm yourself. Take action with extreme prejudice to end them, and I mean any action is appropriate at this point. If they're going to use mental torture, you are entitled to respond in kind. So there you have it. I hope that was helpful. I really enjoyed telling you about my dream that actually happened, and I realized immediately that it was related to chapter 11 of Schnark's book. So next week we will cover chapter 6, 7, and 8, where we actually talk about actionable things in order to improve your marriage. He talks about the hug till relaxation, the eye open orgasm, if you've ever tried to have sex with your eyes open, staring into each other's eyes. It's an advanced technique. Don't try this at home, folks, until you're ready. And several other techniques we'll get into as well. So thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel.
I can't do this all on my own. No, I know I'm no Superman.